our next guest has already led us in the direction of breaking news today on the show. We're not even an hour in. How about that? Let's just pretend that I waited till after the breaking news to schedule Mike. Maybe. I don't know. It was just a great idea, Mike, I guess, to bring you on earlier today. I had no idea you'd be breaking news so quickly, but another quite literally big day for Fran Brown with his most recent signing here.
I think you and Skyler were in cahoots on this announcement here, and so it was great planning by you because you had the forethought from Skyler about his commitment. I think there was a little collaboration going on here. That's my conspiracy theory for the day.
Okay, yeah, we like that. So Skyler Harvey, some of these recent things have been happening at like 7:30 at night. Not friends of the show. Skyler Harvey, yeah, we're big on Skyler Harvey. All right. Speaking of big, right? What am I seeing? 6'7", 350 offensive lineman out of the Maryland area. What can you tell us about this guy?
Yes, he's very large, and when you combine him with Byron Washington, who committed earlier this recruiting cycle, who I believe was listed at 6'8", 380, and some say he's even bigger than that, you can see what Fran Brown likes with his offensive linemen. Size matters for Fran with his offensive linemen. That's clear, and you're seeing kind of a similar thing throughout every position that he's recruiting in terms of what it is that he likes. With his defensive backs, he likes speed and length. With his offensive linemen, he likes size and strength. So he's going for very specific attributes. That's the case here. He had other Power 5 offers, or Power 4 offers, I should say, from Pittsburgh, Boston College, and Virginia Tech. Penn State and Oregon had both expressed interest. He had taken a couple of unofficial visits to Penn State, but they hadn't actually extended an offer yet. Either way, he's from Maryland, really good prospect, tremendous size that you just can't teach, and there's a reason Syracuse offered in April, and they've been in constant communication ever since, which culminated with this past weekend's official visit, which sealed the deal for him.
All right, so that is number 20, I believe, if I'm counting right, in the 2025 recruiting class. Are you surprised he committed this quickly? I had a sense, Mike, that we were going to be waiting maybe till the end of all these visitation weeks to hear something, or is that just how ready he was to pull the trigger here today?
I think waiting till the end is going to be the case with a majority of the recruits, but sometimes, you just go on a visit and you just feel like that's the place for me. And he wasn't someone that going into the weekend I had on my radar as a potential commitment. However, just to give everyone sort of a peek behind the curtain, I have the list of visitors, right? So when Sunday afternoon to evening comes around, now I start hitting up all the recruits that were on campus to try to get interviews, see what's going on, and et cetera. Reached out to several of them. Skyler got back to me. We set up a time for me to talk to him, going through the usual interview stuff, kind of the typical questions. And I asked him, one of the questions I usually ask, which is, what did the visit do for where Syracuse stands in your recruiting process right now? Did it make them higher, lower, interest increased, closer to a decision? Like, what's the situation? And he said back to me, well, that depends. When are you posting this? Oh. And that kind of gave me a little maybe there's something more going on here. So he told me his plan was to call Fran today and commit, and then he was going to post it publicly tomorrow. So I kind of changed direction my interview, but I wasn't planning on writing that up until tonight. So I didn't have a story prepared. He changed his mind and decided he wanted to announce it publicly today. So he did, but I'll be writing up that interview with quotes and stuff tonight, so something for everyone to look out for.
Looking forward to that. So Skyler Harvey, friend of the show, not a friend of Mike McAllister's work timetable.
He was not. He interrupted getting my son off the bus tonight. I mean, what are we doing here?
Okay, we're learning a lot about big Mr. Harvey here today. Mike, and you mentioned, all right, here are the other schools that he gets. And, there's no surprise in this, but we're seeing the list of committed guys. It's a lot of also offered. BC, Pitt are on almost all of them, right? We're seeing a lot of Rutgers on all of them. A lot of Virginia Tech, a lot of West Virginia. And that, was true for Dino. That's true for everybody for all time here at Syracuse. Am I right here, Mike? It feels like Syracuse is winning a significant percentage of these recruiting battles against, the main Northeast rivals right now.
They are, and here's the main difference, Brian, that I'll kind of lay out for you, is you would get a chunk of the class that would have those offers. You'd get a couple of players that would also have, more impressive offer lists, so to speak, with, a couple SEC teams sprinkled in there with the Kentuckys, and maybe you'd get some other schools like a Miami and a Louisville, and every once in a while you get a Penn State. Those type of offer lists are happening more frequently, but then what you're not seeing for the most part is the kids who are going to camps, are going to schools that are at the Power 5 level, Power 4 level, not getting those offers, and just have a bunch of MAC offers, and then they commit to Syracuse. The ones that Fran is getting that are under the radar are like recruits that didn't even have recruiting profiles because nobody knew who they were, but he found them. And then you watch their film and you go, oh, this guy might be the fastest player at his position in the class, or he's one of them. He's an elite track speedster. And you start seeing the traits and the film, et cetera, whereas the guys who aren't under the radar that we know about are guys, almost every single one of them has several power conference offers. So I think that's the difference, that you're seeing them win more of these battles, that you're seeing the recruits that they're getting have specific traits consistently, and a vast majority of the ones that they're winning more so than previously have multiple power conference offers.
It's an interesting point, Mike, and you watch the film on all these guys. The guys they are getting off the radar, they actually intrigue me more, and I guess it's because of the reason you're saying. They intrigue me just sight unseen. I'm like, all right, well, Fran's recruiting against Alabama and Penn State. Why'd he go for this guy, right? That's not really the question that we've been asking in the past.
Yeah, and that's the difference, too, is Fran gets a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here because of that exact thing. The fact that he's won recruiting battles, you think back to this past offseason, or I guess the winter off season, I should say, where they were grabbing guys from the transfer portal. You had a guy like Fadil Diggs that was choosing between Syracuse and Alabama, and picked Syracuse over Alabama. And so you've got those, and then you've got the several four-star players that commit to and sign with Syracuse. And you have several high-profile recruiting wins. You get Ohio State starting quarterback. And then all of a sudden they get some random defensive back from middle of nowhere New York, and you're like, well, where did this guy come from? And your immediate thought is, Fran must have seen something. He found a diamond in the rough. And then you come to find out and look at what his times are as far as his track stardom, and he's borderline Olympic level speed. You say, okay, now I get it. And he's 6'2". So you start to see how some of these things come to fruition with the way that he's recruiting things, and he knows exactly what he's looking for at each position. And when he finds someone that has those traits, he goes after them, and he doesn't honestly really care who else has offered him or what the rankings are.
Yes, and benefit of the doubt shall be extended until August 31st at 3:30, and then we'll start knowing what we got. But
right.
For right now, benefit of the doubt is the leader here. So we got Mike McAllister at 247 Sports with us. We're talking yet another big Syracuse recruiting weekend. A name you wrote up yesterday, Eric Thomas, a defensive tackle out of Florida. He put Cuse in the pole position, at least for now. He's SEC offers, ACC offers. It feels like he's got a lot of offers here. What real chance does Syracuse have with this guy right now?
Well, anytime you're the favorite at some point, that gives you a real shot. Now, he's still got official visits coming up to, I believe, Marshall and South Carolina are his next 2 weekends. And then he said he might sprinkle in some other unofficial visits, throughout the rest of June or maybe even into July, and he's looking at a potential August decision. So he's someone who is taking official visits now, still wants to take a few other visits, and isn't rushing the process. So I don't think we're looking for anything immediately from him. But when you come off an official visit and you put yourself in position to be the leader, that means your official visit went about as well as you can expect. And I think that tells you exactly what you're looking at from what Fran Brown, that coaching staff is doing on the recruiting trail. And funny little tidbit on Thomas, I asked him what his impression was when he walks into the dome and sees the Lamborghinis laid out in the dome, because they took pictures with those. Mm-hmm. And he said it was great and it's really cool, but he's too big for them. He barely got in one and then needed Elijah Robinson's help to get out. He said they're not made for linemen. So they're cool, but not practical for someone like him. But he did get a pretty cool picture of them.
Okay,
so.
Well, I like that. Recruiting people that can't even fit in Lambos, that tells tells you the size that Fran's going after. All right, Mike, the quarterback situation here. Luke Carney was the early verbal. He was here last week, and then this Malik Washington was here this week. Could they get both? Would it be if Malik comes in, Luke bails? Does that change kind of in the world of the portal here? What do you make of where they're at with the quarterbacks right now?
I don't see Luke bailing. Syracuse is extremely high on him. They took him early, not just because he was someone they could get, but was someone that they really wanted. And he is one of the most productive quarterbacks, if not the most productive quarterback in the talent-rich state of Texas. And Syracuse absolutely loves him. Malik Washington is an elite-level talent that a place like Syracuse can't say no to. Now, do I think that they could end up taking another quarterback at some point in this recruiting cycle? I do think that's possible. They did actually offer one somewhat recently in Rich Beelan, who is the brother of Blake Beelan, who visited not this weekend, but the weekend before. Yep. So there's all sorts of Beelans all over the place. Their other brother is at Duke as one of their quarterbacks. So, but either way, it's clear, I think, that they'd like to bring in a second quarterback if they can. I think it's one of those you can never have too many, and you never know who's going to pan out. So if there's one you like and you got room for them, then you take them. But I don't think they'll force it. You know, if they didn't get Rich and Malik Washington, I think most think that Maryland's probably the slight favorite there with his official visit coming this weekend or next weekend, and then he's going into, I think it's next weekend, then he's going into decision-making mode. If Maryland ends up being the choice for Malik Washington, the Syracuse is still going to look and see if there is another quarterback they like that they're willing to take, but they don't have to force it because they've got someone that they do absolutely love in Luke Carney.
Would the Washington, like if he decided on Syracuse, Mike, would that be like a whoa, stop the presses huge get, or would that be like, okay, that's really nice?
It's going to be a huge stop the presses get because of his ranking, because he's a top 200 player overall. He's a 4-star quarterback. Anytime you get a 4-star quarterback, I think it's a stop the presses big deal. Now, I understand my affiliation is with 24/7 Sports, but just to give a little background here, Luke Carney is a 4-star on Rivals. He's not a 4-star on 24/7. He's not on 3, but he is on Rivals. So he was a headline grabber at the time because he had that 4-star label. Anytime you got a 4-star player, I think, especially at the quarterback position, I think it's going to be a headline grabber. But the fact that he's also a top 200 player overall, that's something Syracuse doesn't see very often, and so I think would make it a headline grabber as well. Now, does that mean that he's going to be the guaranteed guy to be the guy once Kyle McCord leaves, and that Luke Carney's going to sort of have one foot out the door before he even gets here? I don't think that's the case at all. Once they get here, the recruiting rankings don't matter, and they'll battle it out. And I think Luke Carney feels confident enough in his ability that he thinks even if they did bring someone else in, that he'd be able to beat him out. All
right, will be certainly interesting to watch going forward. Mike McAllister is with us. Last week, you told us the news of not a class of 2025 guy, not a class of 2026 guy, but a guy that just finished his freshman year in high school. What do you know about Tank White, and how much do you put behind a freshman saying where he's going to college?
Not a ton, and we've seen in college basketball recruiting, it's different. There aren't nearly as many flips as there are in college football. In college football, there's flips way more often, and I think that's because there's coaching staff movement more frequently among the major players in college football, and the sheer number of players you have in a class and all of that. So that makes the number of flips much more frequent. But 2027, again, you're 3 years away from when he would be arriving on campus. That's a long time to stay committed. That said, I'm done underestimating what Fran Brown can do, and assuming Fran Brown is still here 3 years from now, I would feel confident that if anyone can hold on to a recruit for 3 years and have a teenager not change his mind for 3 years, it would be someone like Fran Brown. The other thing I learned is Tank is his actual name. That is not a nickname. And the only other wide receiver I can think of named Tank is Tank Dell, who plays for the Houston Texans, I believe. But I posed this question on Twitter shortly after Tank White committed. If Fran can get a Tank at every position, he's already got Tank Wilson at defensive line. If he can figure out a way to get one at every position, Is a national championship guaranteed? I think it might be.
No, I'd remove the might, Mike. I'd bet my house on it. Like, if you have all tanks, you're not going to. You're not going to lose. Somebody in the chat last week, I could not verify. Is Yassine Willis's nickname Tank? Do you know anything about this? Somebody brought that up last week, but I couldn't find it anywhere.
I don't know that that's the case either way, to be honest.
Okay, well, it may become that just because, so we could get a Tank in the running back spot. How about that Antoine Delorier pick that was been making the rounds? Like, that's a large human being for a linebacker.
He is, and he runs a 4.6, so it's not like he's slow either. That picture is, listen, he is a built individual. He is a large man for a linebacker. He's one of those first guy off the bus type of players, but that picture just happened to be at the right angle with the right flex, and it was just perfect for going viral the way it did. I think it was really cool. He was pretty humbled by it, thought it was really cool. And, it's funny when everyone says, oh, he's the NCAA college football video game creative player. Like, well, he's going to literally be in the game in a couple of years. So you won't have to create him. He will be in it. It'll be interesting to see what they can do as far as the accuracy in terms of the size of his biceps with the EA Sports folks.
Oh, well, actually, now I'm thinking about this further, Mike. He's Canadian. I wonder if he'll actually get to be in the game, or if there's going to be they might have to change the law by then for him. He might actually have to be the creative player when we get to it going forward, if they don't figure out international NIL get in the way of our good fun here. What kind of player is he, Mike? I mean, a Canadian guy goes down to Georgia, like, that's not a normal thing we see, and then he got recruited by darn near everybody. Like, what kind of guy could this guy become in a few years?
I think he could be someone that you think about the last few years of what it's been like at linebacker for Syracuse. And even with the ups and downs of Dino Babers era, they went from Zaire Franklin to Mikel Jones to Marlo Wax, and had some other good linebackers that played with those guys. That's a pretty good trio of linebackers that he had there as kind of running his defense over the course of his career. And you've got Wax back this year. I think he's got a chance to be kind of the next in that lineage. The measurables, as we just mentioned, and the physique are off the charts. Really smart kid. The offers, like you said, from everybody. Notre Dame legit wanted him. He was supposed to go up and visit there after he visited Syracuse and committed, and ended up canceling that trip. So, yeah, he's a big-time player. I think someone that could play inside or out. I would guess I would lean towards him staying inside in terms of where he's going to be among the linebackers. But, someone who loves to hit, very physical player, really smart player, I think has loads of potential.
All right, looking forward to seeing a guy like that on campus. All right, lastly, Mike, before we cut you loose here, anything basketball-wise? We had the commitment last weekend. Do you hear anything sniffing around about a center power forward type, or where are we at right now on that?
We have no new information other than the same information which was Engelstadt followed a big transfer from Marist. And that was about it. And so there were rumors that Syracuse could be involved with him. It was all based off of the one Instagram follow, and there's been zero rumblings since. So, but as we've seen in the past, they have done a tremendous job at keeping things close to the vest, and all of a sudden, Lucas Taylor, even though there were reports of interest, is all of a sudden on campus, and that took it to a whole new level, and then he commits. So wouldn't surprise me if at some point all of a sudden someone is on campus visiting, and then that becomes the next or potentially last player to round out the roster.
All right, so we'll keep our eyes on that for sure. All right, Mike, never a dull moment around these parts. Thanks, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right, there he is. Mike